Now let's talk about Steinhoff, which is an integrated retailer that manufactures, sources and retails furniture and household goods in Europe, Africa and Australasia.
Right, and so the reason we want to talk about this one is because we want to now shift the attention to Europe, because, I mean, the Trump situation is very worrisome, particularly for Americans. But as far as this company is concerned, this is one way of introducing the conversation about Europe and the landscape in Europe. We've got an election coming up in Germany.
In September.
We had one in France.
Which went to Emmanuel Macron.
And then there's the Brexit smexit thing, which is sort of, you know, drifting along, looking pretty ropey.
Still being implemented effectively.
Yeah, just for the record, I think our director wants us to say what it is that the market cap of Steinhoff is. Remember, that one is listed in Frankfurt,
so
but also here.
293.5 billion rand, price to earnings ratio of 15.2 and a dividend yield here of 3.3%. There we go.
So the important takeaway about Europe is that the European Union project has been saved. And that is because Emmanuel Macron, in the second most important country in Europe, is pro-European and wants to strengthen those ties.
And Marine Le Pen would have basically severed those ties, it appears.
I mean, she might have gotten up to.
It appears that she would have severed the ties and certainly...
Which would have been an almighty mess, because you can't go back really. And at the core of Europe, in its original founding, was that relationship between the French and the Germans, which is almost like a security alliance. It was basically like, crumbs, we've had so many wars, let's perhaps try being economical, sort of, you know,
economic
dependence.
Sisters, brothers.
As far as Germany is concerned, you alluded to that. Angela Merkel, remember, in Germany you can run for a long time and be the chancellor. She has been the chancellor. She's going to run for a 4th term. She is at the head of the CDU, CSU, which is the right of centre, slightly more conservative. And then against her is the SPD. And the guy there, Martin Schulz, is an ex-European bureaucrat type. It looks as though from regional elections that have been had in recent days, as though Merkel's crowd are on the up. So that's also
and of course
positive.
She's got, so I can give you a little trivia here, is that Wolfgang Schäuble was here at the World Economic Forum in Durban. He's the Federal Finance Minister of Germany.
And he is her political ally.
Right hand.
Yeah.
So he's very favorable to the Africa growth story, by the way. And also, the other thing is that Germany is now holds the presidency for the G20.
Okay.
And they've actually put Africa very high on their agenda.
So this all sounds good.
It's
business as usual. The European project is intact. We can depend on Schäuble, for example, to solve that Greece situation, which is still rumbling along in the background.
We can.
Greece
So Europe, at the end of the day, this French election, as you rightly point out, was crucial for the survival of the European Union. We're now a step closer to that. Of course, you can't discount the rise of populism and the impact that could ultimately have, even on Germany.
Immigration remains a hot potato issue.
Come that September election.
What about Brexit?
Well,
so now that negotiation is running on, but who knows whether they're going to be able to come to a deal.
And the bottom line is that for as long as the situation isn't resolved and there's clarity, the market's in limbo. And the question that you've just been asked, that you've just asked right now, will continue to be asked because there is no resolution.
So I think it's going to be bad for London, for sure, because there's not going to be a deal that's very favourable to the Brits. The Europeans don't want to do a deal which is favourable, because then it would encourage other countries
to leave the European Union.
You know, and they also don't like the Scotland thing, and they don't like all the ramifications of the UK's current rumblings, because it would then encourage sub-states like Catalonia, which is where Barcelona is, to get Chacharak as well. That's bad. So all these things considered, Brexit, I think, is going to end up in a 3-year negotiation, and then it's going to fail, and then Britain's going to have to just go off by itself.
But you also have to ask what a 3-year negotiation will do to the investment thesis.
Well, I don't want to be too negative, because remember, the UK is a very sort of resilient, big economy. The Brits are going to go about their daily lives anyway. I don't think it's going to result in a huge economic slump in the UK, but I wouldn't be rushing to buy
stocks
European,
that are exposed.
UK property, for example, or companies that have big UK exposure like Netcare and others of that. Yeah, I mean, I would just avoid those for the time being.
But it comes back to the point that I made earlier. It's the uncertainty.
We do have a little bit of exposure
to it. You have to answer my question. Are you avoiding because of the uncertainty?
Yes,
you don't know how this is going to unfold.
For sure, and I think it's going to be at the margin negative for the UK economy. Not necessarily all fall down, but necessarily potentially, you know, GDP growth, which is not there, weak currency, the UK monetary authorities might have to step in, that sort of thing.
Is it time then to get out of Steinhoff, which we hold in the portfolio?
No, I would say Steinhoff is a definite hold, because remember, Steinhoff's principal assets are in France in the form of Conforama, and then a whole lot of retail assets in Germany and Austria and Eastern Europe.
So limited UK
They're
exposure.
listed in Frankfurt, they have a HQ, they've got limited, they've got a few sort of mattress and furniture type stores in the UK, but it's nothing really to get too excited about.
So this one is really a hold and solidified in the portfolio because of the strength of the European Union post the France election,
and they trade
the French
and
election.
they report in euros and all the rest of it, so I think it's a happy hold, and I think the European economy continues to
How has it
do
done
well.
for us of late, Steinhoff?
It's done okay in Europe. It's sort of bounced around and gone sideways, and then it's moved a little bit with the Rand-Euro exchange rate, which also hasn't done much. So it's basically been around the 70 Rands a share level for a while. It's an earnings story. What Marcus Jooste has to now do is make money in the US with that mattress firm operation, and it has to look at costs and cost management in France and Europe and everywhere else.
But it's relatively safe pair of hands. Marcus Jooste got a great track record.
And they also own, of course, African assets in the form of all of the Pepkor stuff and stuff that they've got
That
here.
they bought from Brait.
Yeah. Happy to keep holding that one hot, yes.